Hi there. My name is Jacob Grass. I'm originally from a small town called Hillsboro, Missouri, but we moved here when my wife received a job offer. Growing up, I worked on a farm. I had four siblings, and I think living in the country and working on a farm really taught me not only how to work hard, but how to challenge myself. And it also exposed me to a good work ethic and also broken bones and bruises and cuts and stuff like that as well at a really young age. So now currently I really enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy backpacking and fishing and hiking, and I also like to go to the city and look at the museums and go to places to eat with my wife. So that's a little about me. I chose nursing because I've really always had a heart for people, um, and I really just truly want to make an impact on people's lives, even when they're in their worst condition, even when they're at their sickest. I really want to impact people and help them and promote health and wellness and patient autonomy. So I want to work here because I've seen that your hospital has a really good and excellent reputation for patient care and for advocacy. Um, I really wanted and desired to be in a position where I can truly invest myself into helping others. And it's also important for me to be in a position where I can continue to grow, continue to gain knowledge, um, continue to build my character, to build my skills as a nurse. And just what I've seen here is an excellent atmosphere of teaching and promotion of continual growth. So I really just love this place and would love to work here. So, my kind of goal, my career objectives over the next 5 years, as mentioned earlier, I'd love to start my career here, but also to develop and kind of fine tune my clinical skills as well as my nursing knowledge, my practical knowledge, and eventually I would really love to seek a higher degree of education. So maybe like a nurse practitioner or even a master's of science in nursing. But as for now, I would just love to work here and increase my skills as a nurse and um, learn your guys' system and the clientele and just work beside you guys and see where life takes me from there. So, if you guys hire me, what can I offer for you? What can I bring to your facility? Well, I think it's important for a little bit of a backstory. My previous training and my experience is all in the healthcare field, in the emergency department to be specific. And I think it's kind of trained me and gotten me ready for this position. I've spent the last 4 years attending clinical and being a tech and a sitter in the emergency department. So I just feel like I'm familiar and I'm well adjusted to the fast pace um, and kind of high stress situations that the emergency department offers. Furthermore, I think I, I have strong teamwork attributes and skills, and I can easily and effectively adapt to any situation that I'm put in. Due to my previous experiences in the hospital, I'm able to think clearly in stressful situations. And in those situations, to promote patient autonomy and collaboration with the family, patient, and as well as the other healthcare workers that I'm working with. I'm also very patient, and I am a determined individual, and I can help encourage and boost morale of the teamwork of the healthcare team and just be that rock, that guy who is very supportive and loving and caring and looks out for what's best for the patient and the healthcare team unit as a whole. So, a time when I experienced a stressful situation and how I handled that situation. So, a few months ago, while I was working in the emergency department, I was in a room, and this patient had their stent collapse, and so we got an EKG, and it turned out it was a repeat myocardial infarction. And so there was stress between coworkers, between the family members that were there, between the patient, and all these intermingling factors that caused stress. But for some reason, I felt and remained calm during this situation. I was able to start a line because I knew that she would probably be transferred over to cath lab, and in doing so, I was also able to start medications like morphine, and to help just promote a stress-free environment, because I acted quickly, and I was kind of thriving under this situation. I was also able to contact the cath lab for an immediate transport for this patient. So I think by remaining calm in this situation, I was able to keep the patient under control, their stress under control, but as well as the family and other healthcare team members. It's important that we handle stress as nurses, not to push us in the wrong direction and skew our thinking, but that we take our time and be patient and critically think during stressful moments to get what needs to be done for this patient, so that we can heal them, fix them. And the patient population that draws me to this facility is just the emergent need for care. I love caring for all people, all backgrounds. No matter who walks through that front door, I'm excited and eager to work with them with no hesitation and no bias. It's really important to me that everyone, rich or poor, no matter their ethnicity, how they identify themselves, that they receive the same care as anyone else. And that should be good, strong, appropriate, patient-centered, evidence-based care. And I am just looking forward to these emergent situations where I'm able to help the healthcare team treat these patients and get them back to health and get them back to their families, to their lives. So I think personally my best quality is being able to communicate effectively. It's really easy and natural for me to just talk, to express myself, to discuss with the patient or a healthcare team member what I expect of them and what they should expect of me. It's easy for me to clearly get across my expectation for others, and as well as it's easy for me to educate, to continually educate from the moment they step in that door to the moment they leave or discharged or transferred or admitted, whatever it is. I take every opportunity when talking to them to educate them, whether it's smoking, whether it's healthy eating, whether it's medication administration, are they taking their meds properly? But on the other hand, I really struggle with empathy, because it's easy for me to get caught up in the care of the patient, on the physical end. And it's a little bit tougher for me to kind of dive deep and get into the care of the patient on the psychological or emotional end, and what they need on their emotional side, who they need for support, what their coping mechanisms are. So that's something I need to personally work on, but it's definitely something I struggle with as well. So when I experienced failing at something, and how did I overcome it? This is a pretty prominent turning point, I would say, in my life in general, and it involves nursing school. I remember I was taking my prereqs at a community college, and it was my first anatomy and physiology exam. I'd studied, and I studied hard, and I studied long, and late nights, and it was my first exam, and I bombed it, and it resulted in failure, And I just remember being bummed, thinking, man, will I ever be able to do this again? Am I going to be able to pass nursing school? And I remember that I sat down, and for my next exam, I took a little online quiz about what my learning style was. And my learning style is highly visual. I'm a major visual learner. And so for my next review, or my next exam, I reviewed videos, I looked at graphs, I looked at charts, I looked at diagrams, I studied animations, and all these things, along with reading my textbook, of course, but these things helped me understand how the human body worked. And I still think of them in kind of graphs and animations today instead of on paper. So when the exam came around, my next exam too, I ended up getting an A, and I was stoked about it, and I ended up passing that class. And it gave me a sense of, I can do this. I overcame a failure, and I was able to move on and successfully complete most of nursing school as of now. And so when I experienced failure, I was able to devise a way and figure out a way that I can improve myself so that when failure comes again, I know where to turn and I can overcome it and move on, because failure is a natural part of life. And we're all going to fail because we're human, and we're all going to mess up because we're human. But it's important not to get hung up on that and to figure out where you messed up and to move on. And I think I exemplified that well that first year of my prereqs there. So if I saw something unethical from my coworker, what would I do? It really depends for me on what the coworker did. But ultimately, I would definitely confront them, because if I don't confront them straight up, they might do it again. And if I go to a higher authority, like a manager or a house supervisor or something like that, I feel like they wouldn't be able to contact the employee on time. So I think I would just confront them, and it would be important to ask if they knew what they were doing was wrong or if they had been taught that. And it's also important to ask, if they knew what the ethical thing to do was, and potentially educate on them. I think furthermore, we could also get management involved later on, maybe to incorporate mandatory training into the other training that's necessary to be done through the hospitals, and devise a way and a plan to make sure this doesn't happen again, because patient autonomy and patient freedom is, in good, solid, evidence-based practice, patient care is our goal. And when someone is being unethical, it's important that they stop immediately. So, what did I like or dislike about my previous place of employment? So, they had excellent sense of unity and of teamwork, and I loved that. We all felt like we were friends, we were close, we picked up the slack whenever necessary. But one thing I didn't like was a lack of organization. There was many times when I wouldn't be aware of, or I wouldn't even know of a mandatory training that I needed to do, or maybe I needed TDAP up to date. And so the communication and organization on that part was poor. And furthermore, the scheduling system they used was all on paper, which is fine, but it's hard to review and know who's working when. There were a couple times when I came into work knowing I worked, and the charge nurse was surprised that I was there because she didn't know I was coming in that day. So those are a few things I liked and disliked about it, but overall it was a very educational and beneficial experience. And so lastly, this question says, I look forward to meeting with you soon. If you have any questions for me, please don't hesitate to ask. So just 2 questions here is, what does a typical shift in this emergency department look like? I would be curious to know the rundown, how many patients you get, if you're in a certain pod all day, stuff like that. And then lastly, if you offer any opportunities for continuing education, maybe a scholarship or tuition if I contract for a certain amount of years. So anyway, I'm very thankful and I appreciate your time and allowing me to interview today. Thanks.